What if Deku had Sans powers? Part 2. Now, before I do get into this video, I would like to ask you all if you would be interested in seeing some other type of content of mine, like maybe I can upload some anime gaming videos or some other type of videos, but not just what if content, as I want to transition my YouTube channel and do something of a sort of mix and not just relying solely on anime what if content. So if you have any suggestions on different type of content I can do, comment them down below. And now let's change it up and get this ad break out of the way so I can just completely do the video and finish it without having a interruptive ad in the middle of it. So yeah, let's finish this ad break.
Are you interested in buying yourself some My Hero Academia merch? Some amazing hoodies, shirts with your favorite character on it? From Izuku Midoriya to Shoto Todoroki, Bakugo Katsuki, and Himiko Toga. Go click the link in my description box now and get some awesome discounts from 17% up to 48% off. They offer you free shipping as well. So, what are you waiting for? Link in the description.
Izuku would come into his Class 1A classroom as he would sit down. Aizawa would walk in as he would point to a map up on the chalkboard that he put up the day prior after school had ended. Aizawa would start to speak to them about what they will be doing over the next couple weeks. Aizawa would explain, over the next couple weeks, we will be learning about search and rescue, and then on the final day, you all will go to a place called the USJ. Mina Ashida would stand up saying, Universal Studios Japan? Whoa, no way! Aizawa would glare at her, just saying, sit down, Mina. We are actually going to be going to the unforeseen simulation joints, not the actual USJ. From there, we will be learning about research and searching for civilians. You will be graded on that, as that is your final assignment for this semester. As this whole semester is about search and rescue, your next semester will be about just training to get your strength up. Now, guess we shall begin on this unit, as they would start to talk about searching and rescuing, with Izuku just sleeping, with the entire class just not bothered by it. 2 weeks would pass, as they would all be told by Aizawa to hop on a bus after putting their hero suits on. Izuku would hop on the bus, with everybody else hopping on the bus as well, as Izuku would fall asleep on the bus as well, just not really caring at all. He doesn't care really what happens, if he gets a bad grade or not, as he pretty much just knows they're not going to let a prodigy strength like him slip away, because, listen to this, if it's a hero school, and they're just training around search and rescue, Izuku is usually just going to be the brute strength. He can walk in, he can teleport. He could teleport easily and knock a villain out, easily saving everybody. He's a risk taker, so it's not like he should learn about this when he's not even going to use the information given to him. Now, that's why some people think math is useless, when in reality they're just trying to teach you up, because in college you have to take a class just like that, which would be the beginner's class and then the master's class or some stupid thing like that. That's why you have math class in school. So, Izuku wouldn't really care about this useless information, even though most of his class would care about it. He didn't care at all. When they would get there, Izuku would finally realize he would probably get a crap grade on the entire assignment, so he would start asking around people what he has to do, with them just not even batting an eye towards him, just them thinking in their heads, you did this to yourself, Izuku, while just face-palming, like, he expects us to help him? He's the one who did this to himself. Can't believe he's actually like this. They would open up the doors after the Hero 13 would talk to them, as Aizawa would then start to see a mysterious void open up in the center. Hundreds of people would step out, with Kirishima stepping forward saying, "Whoa, they even have fake villains here? That's insane! Aizawa would look at him, just saying, "No, Kirishima, those aren't fake villains. 13, protect the students. Students, stay back." Aizawa would jump down and start to fight the villains, with Izuku just saying gladly, now with a lawn chair and an umbrella right next to him, with him just relaxing, sitting there, with the entire class just looking at him like, "How'd you get those?" One of them would actually end up saying that to him, asking him, "Where the hell did you just get this random lawn chair from?" When Izuku would say he has a teleportation ability, to which Ida would go up behind him and smack him on the head, just saying, "You could have contacted UA already. The heroes could have already been here. There's lives at stake. Teleport to UA and notify them about this." Izuku would just stand up groaning about this and would teleport to UA, tell them that there's a villain attack at the USJ, and would then teleport back, all within 5 seconds. Nezu would have this information hard to comprehend, but would try to get as many heroes to the USJ as possible. Izuku would sit right back in his lawn chair, now sipping on a drink that he got, just watching Aizawa start to fend off all of the villains. Kirigiri would see all the students still together and would think that it would be best if he was able to separate them. And so he did. He separated most of the students, besides a very few select people up at the top of the group. This would mostly just be Izuku and a couple of the weaklings. Kirigiri didn't separate Izuku because he's Izuku. He looks lazy. Now, some of you guys in the comments said he shouldn't be a skeleton. I'll just make some slight changes to his appearance. He looks very pale, he has white skin and white hair, but he does have bone hands and feet, basically. So his arm slowly transitions into bone hands and feet. So Izuku would just be sitting there, with Kirigiri wondering if Izuku's going to do anything, because he can sense power radiating off of Izuku. He can sense that Izuku is insanely strong. Now, from there, Shigaraki would ask Kirigiri to go out and ask one of their surveillance villains or surveillance thugs to see if any heroes are coming. Kirigiri would say that multiple heroes are on their way, with Shigaraki just asking Kirigiri to contact All For One and to tell him to bring more Nomus to that place. Kirigiri would nod, as he would then see multiple gray portals open up underneath the ground, as 5 more Nomus would step out, all looking either bigger or smaller than the purple Nomu. Now 5 minutes would pass, with Aizawa still fighting, as all of the low-life thugs would end up being taken care of, as Shigaraki would just have enough of this waiting, as he would then say, "Nomu, take care of that stupid hero." The Nomu would run right at Aizawa with tremendous speeds, grabbing Aizawa's head and slamming Aizawa's head right into the ground. Aizawa would start to cough up blood, completely just drained of energy after being hit by such an attack. Aizawa would slowly collapse into unconsciousness, as Izuku would see this, not really caring. He would just teleport, grab Aizawa, and bring him all the way back up to the stairs, just so he could at least be somewhat safe. From there, Izuku would be sitting there as heroes would arrive, making the entire middle scene of the USJ complete chaos. There was tons of heroes fighting tons of these Nomus. It was a full-on battle out here, as Izuku would just be watching this, with many of the heroes trying to get him to flee the scene, having the doors being opened, but him not really caring. That would take up too much energy to him, as he doesn't want to have to flee the scene and all that, when he can just sit here and watch, completely protected by his powers and strengths. Now from there, he would see Ochako Uraraka surface from the water and would start to walk up towards the middle, completely clueless that there was a huge battle going on. Strange, I know. Izuku would see this, just wondering what she was doing, not having his eyes leave her, as Shigaraki would also notice the girl, as he would run right at her, saying this was the perfect opportunity. Izuku would stand up, about to do something, as Shigaraki's hands would grab Uraraka's neck, as Izuku would finally decide to do something. Shigaraki, now having his hands on Uraraka's neck, as her neck would slowly deteriorate into dust. However, within a split second, Izuku would be right there with Shigaraki's hand in his hand. Izuku would look right into Shigaraki's eyes as he would then say this to him. Say, here's some friendly advice. If you keep attacking my friends, you're gonna have a bad time. Izuku would then instantly disappear and would then appear right behind Shigaraki with 6 caster blasters right next to him, 3 on each side. And with a moment's notice, all 6 of them would fire right at Shigaraki, piercing a hole right through his chest, as Shigaraki would start to cough out blood and would drop to his knees, struggling to stay awake. How the hell did you do that? Izuku would look down at Shigaraki with his one eye now glowing blue, as he would see Shigaraki collapsed. Izuku would put his foot right on Shigaraki's head, pushing it down into the ground, just saying, "You attacked my friends. That's something you shouldn't have done." Izuku would then look behind him to see all of the Nomus still fighting the heroes, and the heroes having a very, very hard time to defeat them. Izuku would then disappear from Uraraka's sight. With her struggling to breathe, she would also end up passing out. Izuku would instantly teleport to a hospital, telling them to get as many ambulances as possible down to the unforeseen simulation joint. Izuku would then teleport up to all the Nomus with many bones just floating around him, as hundreds of bones would start to fly and pierce through all of the Nomu's skin. And that was only the first wave of his attacks. Within seconds after, he would send tons of gaster blasters everywhere, which would send tons of lasers piercing through all of the Nomu's bodies. Izuku would continue this up as the Nomus would end up disintegrating into dust, having their bodies being completely destroyed by Izuku attacking them wave after wave. Ambulances and police cars would end up showing up to the scene, taking away any of the injured, like Uraraka or Aizawa. Shigaraki ended up barely escaping and would end up landing himself in a bed with the Nomu doctor, where he would end up trying to fix Shigaraki to make him just like he was, which would end up Shigaraki becoming somewhat like a Nomu, having many scars around the center of his chest, with also the doctor implanting a regeneration quirk inside of Shigaraki, so something like this can never happen again. Izuku would end up being praised for his actions of saving everybody, with him just telling them they went and attacked his friends, which was a big no-no in his eyes. Izuku would end up walking home from school with his mother tackling him to the ground crying, saying how she was so worried about him, as Izuku would then just look at her saying, "Wait, how'd you know? Thought Yue was trying to keep this attack a secret." She would say that they trust her enough to give her information, with Izuku just nodding. Izuku would go to bed tired from all the experience he's had that day, as he would end up sleeping in till around 7 p.m. at night. He would walk down the stairs to see his mother holding a letter in her hand while eating some soup. She would end up giving the letter to Izuku, saying that it's from UA. Izuku would sit down as he'd open the letter saying that he now has a month off from school for them to recuperate and for all the students to try to train, as he would see that the UA Sports Festival will be held in exactly 1 month. Izuku would just smile, knowing now he has 1 month of him just doing minor training and pretty much nothing else. Izuku would end up going back to bed for the night as it was already pretty late and he just didn't bother to get up and do anything else with the day. Izuku would end up waiting out that 1 month, barely training because he felt no need to. He's already very familiar with his abilities and sees them at their max potential they can be, so he just doesn't bother with the useless training. Izuku would end up walking into school the next day as Aisawa would tell them that they should put on the UA uniforms or UAPE uniforms and head down to the bus, to which they would, and would end up in a waiting room waiting for the intercoms to sound for them to all head out into the sports festival arena. Izuku would just be sitting there as they would end up calling Class 1A out onto the field, as Izuku and the rest of the class would walk out there with Midnight asking for the Class 1A representative to come up and make a speech. Within a second, Izuku would grab Bakugo and teleport him up to the podium and teleport right back down, as if Bakugo just mysteriously appeared there, and Bakugo just would shrug and give a speech, even though he wasn't the first-year representative at all. Izuku would then hear Midnight just say, "Okay, and now the first event will be a race. All of you, go line up over there." Izuku would line up along with everybody else, as he would hear the starting line say go, as Izuku would instantly teleport to the finish line and would just step right over it, as the entire crowd would cheer just from the crazy amount of how Izuku easily finished the test in 0.01 seconds, as the rest of the people barely hadn't even gotten to the first obstacle yet. Now we cut back to everybody with Todoroki and Bakugo just getting past these 0-pointers and now going on to the second part of the sports festival, while Izuku would just be sitting there waiting for them all to finish. Izuku just sitting there would just be wondering how easy this entire tournament could be and how quickly he could finish it so he can go home. His mother told him if he gets first place, she'll cook him his favorite dinner, which was katsudon with ketchup. I think that's something they said Sans was eating ketchup in one of the scenes, so screw it, he likes ketchup now. Ketchup's okay, so yeah, he'll have ketchup in this. Because why not? Izuku wanted that, his favorite dinner, so much, so he would at least try a little bit so he could get first and have his favorite dinner that he wants. Izuku would end up waiting out as the entire rest of the people would finish the race, with the people that didn't finish in the top 50 being eliminated. Midnight would then come up to a podium again, telling them that the second event is a cavalry battle. Izuku would nod, knowing that this is probably going to be an interesting battle type thing, as he would hear the rules, how there's going to be 3 people, the horses, and the one person up top, the leader, as the rider with headbands with a certain amount of points based on where you scored in the race. It would then be announced that first place got 10 million points, as Izuku would see everybody staring at him, with Izuku just laughing, wondering why they're all staring at him with such greedy eyes. He would then hear from the go mark for them to all start making their teams. Izuku would end up making a team with Uraraka, Mei Hatsume, and Tokayami. Izuku would end up being the rider or the leader of it with his 10 million point headband, as it would start with Izuku and the rest of the team just dodging their way to victory, and it pretty much went just like canon, except when Todoroki reached out to grab the headband, Izuku would have easily dodged Todoroki's hand, teleporting away, then teleporting right back just as fast, with Todoroki missing, with Izuku's team in first place. It would then come apparent that Izuku will be up in the first round against Shinso, which Izuku would end up hearing from one of his classmates has a brainwashing quirk. So Izuku thought this would be interesting. Izuku would end up standing right on the arena as Midnight would yell go, with Shinso immediately throwing insults, with Izuku just answering yes, which Shinso would have said something stupid like saying, "Your mother must be so disappointed with you," which Izuku, of course, just saying yes in a very weird tone, as Shinso would just smile, saying, "I got you." Though being thrown back, he would travel into his mind, only to see a weird skeleton figure wearing the same blue parka that Izuku was wearing, to which he would just wonder what is up with this. This is kind of strange. To which this 4-5 skeleton figure would stand up, just saying, "So, you've made it into his mind, huh? That's pretty impressive. I guess you'll get to meet me. I mean, you already have met me. So, let me introduce you. This is Izuku Midoriya's mind. It's pretty empty, isn't it? That's what I thought when I moved here. At least I got a ketchup bottle and a lawn chair. I have no clue, I'm just saying random things about this because I've never played Undertale. I've watched people play it before, and I know most of Sans powers. I'm just making stuff up as I go, because that's what what-ifers usually do. Haha, yeah. Izuku would just be staring blankly, as his entire class would be wondering what's up with him, as Shinso would then see Sans just make one massive Gaster Blaster. I think it's called a huge Gaster Blaster, or a gigantic Gaster Blaster, which would then start charging up a attack, which would hit Shinso and would send him flying back out of Izuku's head, but also sending him flying back in the arena, sending him flying and touching the grass, which would make him have lost. The entire crowd would just be dead silent, wondering what happened. I mean, Izuku was just staring blankly at space, and Shinso just miraculously just flew out of nowhere. Strange, they all thought. Izuku would be sitting there, just wondering what happened to Shinso as well, but not really caring, thinking Sans must have took care of him. Izuku would then be told that he will be going up in the second round against Shoto Todoroki. Izuku would end up bumping into him, as Shoto would say that he doesn't care who Izuku is, he's going to beat Izuku using only his ice quirk. To which Izuku would just smile, thinking this is gonna be fun. He would go out there, deciding to use some of his power, as Midnight would yell, "Go!" As soon as that would start, Todoroki would use the same strategy used against Zero, sending a massive iceberg right at Izuku. However, Izuku would easily dodge it and crush it with his fist, with him just easily doing this just taunting Todoroki. Izuku would see Todoroki start to feel the effects of frostbite, with Izuku just doing this ruthlessly, not even caring. If an attack would come his way, he would easily dodge and smash it. He would do this over and over again, just showing how weak Todoroki was without his second half. And from there, Todoroki would collapse from the pain of his frostbite, with Izuku just laughing at Todoroki's ignorance to not use his father's side, or his fire side. Izuku would end up being told he will be going up against Bakugo in the final round, having had Tenya forfeit because he had family matters to attend to. Izuku would end up just looking at Bakugo, saying, Bakugo, can finally verse you in a real fight. I guess I can finally show you what it feels like to be bullied for 10 years. Bakugo would just be wondering what was happening, with Izuku just smiling with a dead glare. From there, Midnight would yell go as Bakugo would try to move but couldn't. You're about to have a bad time, Bakugo, Izuku would say, with Bakugo starting to sweat a lot heavier now as he couldn't move. Izuku would start to walk up to him, his eye now glowing blue, as Izuku would just point his hand up as Bakugo would be sent flying up and then come crashing right down. Izuku would just start toying with Bakugo like he was some ragdoll, with him just doing this over and over again as Bakugo would start to go unconscious from blood loss. But right before he could, Izuku would bring Bakugo closer to his face, just smiling deadly like he always does, just saying, "That's what you get, Bakugo, and it's what you deserve for bullying me for 10 long years." Izuku would then drop Bakugo down, who was now unconscious, as the entire crowd would slowly begin to cheer. It was a one-sided fight, but it sure was interesting. Izuku would then just walk out and would end up being crowned the number one or first place in the UA Sports Festival. He would end up going home to have katsudon with ketchup, which his mother had promised if he got first place in the tournament. And that's where I'm going to leave it off, guys. I'm sorry it's not a 40-minute video, but I'm going to try to leave 40-minute videos for parts 1 and 2 will probably be if it's on a weekend, like if part 1's on Saturday and part 2's on Sunday. Because this is a school night for me, I don't want to just take 40 minutes out of when I could be studying or something, so I'm going to leave it to like 20 minutes for something. Like, I'm going to leave it to 28, 30-minute videos on normal weekdays unless it's a part 1. I thank you all for watching, and if you have any suggestions on different types of content I can do, please tell me down in the comments below. I thank you all for watching once again, and goodbye.